over in a minute because we're going to see a little bit of what the Tabletopia platform is. But before we dive into that, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about like how it got started? What was the Tabletopia story, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tabletopia was originally kickstarted a couple years ago now. I'm only recently on the team. I wasn't there as part of it at the beginning, but it was kickstarted by a bunch of people who wanted to see a digital sandbox that they could play their favorite board games on. And well, come to today, and now we're getting 1 million regular users to the website, 200,000 registered regular accounts. And it's now a digital space you can play board games in, and they're all approved by the publisher. So everyone who uploads a game to Tabletopia is either the publisher or approved by the publisher. And these games are a really good way to connect with others, like you're sitting across the table from them.
It's cute. So I've seen a little bit of some on your Twitch stream and also your YouTube channel. That you do some really lovely like introductions on how to use all the different bits and pieces of the interface, from right down to having your own secret set of cards and how to put things around. It's not one of those websites where you, a little bit like on your phone, where it just forces you into 2 or 3 actions. You can do anything on this, can't you?
You can do anything. So you can fling pieces at other people. You can put cards where they shouldn't be. So the beauty of it is that it's a sandbox where you can manipulate the pieces as if you were sitting across the table from someone else. And so I think a lot of people really gravitate to that lack of automation, and not because it makes life harder, but because it makes it feel closer to real life. And I think that really gives it a sense of how you're sitting across the table from your friends that you maybe can't see right now.
Yeah, I think part of what attracts me to it, I know there are some games where I've decided I don't like one specific rule. And or it doesn't work for our play group. We don't enjoy the take that element of something, so we don't have to use that when you use Tabletopia. Is that right? You can just play it how you want.
That's right. You can just play it how you want because we give you the pieces and you do the rest.
So should we come over and you could give us a little bit of a tour?
Absolutely. So today I'll give you a bit of a tour of how to sign up, how to sort of navigate the main website, and there we are. And basically how to get acclimatized to using Tabletopia. So the first thing you'll do is you'll see that I'm at tabletopia.com. And this is just the main landing page that you get to. And it's really simple to use. You can access Tabletopia from any modern browser. You can also use the iOS app or the Android app. They have a limited selection of games, and you can also use the Steam app. So there's a lot of ways to access it, but really all you need is Chrome or Firefox and tabletopia.com. So the first thing you'd want to do is sign up, and all we need from you when you sign up is just an email and a password. So it's actually very straightforward. You can also sign up with Facebook, Twitter, or connect a Steam account if you've created an account that way. But we don't need a credit card because it's free to use, barring some of our premium games. And I think the beauty of that is that it's really easy to just jump into and give some games a go before you actually commit any money. Now, I've already got an account, so I'm just going to click login. And I'm going to log in via Facebook, which is already connected here. And that should just do its magic. Yes, there we are.
There we go.
Here we are. And now we're just in Tabletopia. And so you'll see there's a lot of ways to find games to play. We have a large library of games. You can click all games up here, and this will take you to our entire catalog. Right now, we're almost at 1,100 games, and we're actually adding games daily. So it's a really diverse catalog that keeps expanding. If you're a bit overwhelmed here, you've got a bunch of filters up the top here as well. So you can sort it by easy to learn games, for example. You can sort it by games that are new releases. Actually, we just got Detective, a modern crime board game, which I'm very excited about. It's the 6th case. So it's a nice introduction into it. And that's another thing. A lot of publishers will put demo versions of their games on Tabletopia, and it's a good way to test out a game before you commit to buying the real thing. We've also got a bunch of other categories here, like Kickstarter games. So these are games currently on Kickstarter. Role player adventures, I'm very excited about. Intrepid is a co-op game I'm very excited about as well. Yeah, and so you can go into any of these categories and go into any of the games. They'll they'll show you a bit more about the game. So now we've got a question in the chat here. How do I find people to play games with? Yes, that's a very good question. So anywhere when you're navigating, if another way you can find games rather than initiating your own game is the find and play section here. So the find and play section will list you a bunch of games that people have scheduled for another time. So if you click this little play later icon, you can see when people have games that they want people to play with. All times are in your local time. That's something very important to note.
But
so
that's brilliant because you're not actually in the UK right now, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not. So I'm not going to be playing this 3:30 a.m. game, but I would play this 10 a.m. game on Saturday. It looks like someone wants to play the networks, and there's 4 seats free. So that's a nice way I could hop in and play with someone, whether it's turn-based or whether it's actually that's when you are going to play the game. So whether you take turns and just check in at any time.
So we don't have to all be available all at the same time. You can a little bit like I'm going to take my turn. There's an end turn feature, and then it's the next players, and they'll log in at some point. So you can literally play across multiple time zones and have a week-long game of the networks or something.
That's correct. Yes, absolutely. And it's a nice way to just have a couple of concurrent games going. Just check in on them as people move. And that's sort of really up to the group. You'll coordinate. We have a chat function built in, so people can actually designate the terms in which they want to play. I want this game to be played at this time, or this is when the game will start, and I'd just like some people to hop in and play a couple games with me. You also see here I've clicked the Play Now section. These are people who've listed games that they're looking for players right now. And so, again, it's a nice way to find games that are available. Yes, so you also see we've got a bunch of nice categories here that sort things out. But let's say I want to go into a game and actually find out a bit more about it. You can also search for games up the top as well. So I think a really good game is The Great Fire of London. Have you folks heard of this one?
I'm not sure.
I've heard of it somewhere.
I might have around about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this is a lovely game called The Great Fire of London, 1666, by Richard Denning. Odd name.
Richard
but
Denning.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Now, this game, we can see a little bit more about it here. So we've got the BGG links, we've got the websites of the publishers. If they're a Kickstarter, they can also list their Kickstarter link as well. It's a really nice way for Kickstarters to advertise themselves while they're playing. You can read a bit more about the game. You can also view the rules in any format that they've made it available. And you can also see setups. So I just want to quickly talk about setups. Setups are a set of predefined ways that the games are laid out. So for example, you can see here we've got a 2-player version of the game in English. We've got a 3-player version of the game in Dutch, I want to say, German, and 4, 5, 6. And so you can choose any of these setups, and they'll actually give you the pieces laid out for that appropriate amount of players. And the way to start a game, you can see up here, we've got the ability to play hot seat. Hot seat is if somebody is sitting in the same room as you, excuse me. So hot seat is just a way for you to take turns and have the game function where you're sharing the same keyboard and mouse. Well, you also be able to play online, and that's the main way that we'll be playing. One other thing I do want to show off, just in a separate tab, I'm going to pick, say, Scythe. The third option that is available in games that allow it is to play solo. And so this is another way you can interact with Tabletopia and just play a game by yourself. And one thing that Scythe does have, by the way, is you'll notice a little premium tab here. These are setups that are only for premium paying members. What's good about a lot of the games on Tabletopia is that although a lot of them will be premium, they'll have a mix of premium and non-premium. So for example, you can see the 2-player Crimea and Nordic setup of Scythe here is available for anyone to play. And that's just a way that Jamie's allowed people to try out the game for free. And then if they want to pay for premium, they can play the full game. Now, back to Great Fire of London. So I've clicked play online, and here we are in the lobby waiting for other players. You can select the setup here. So let's say I want to play in 3-player English. 3-player English, and that's just loading. But in the meantime, you can see there's an available seat here. And you can also see we've got a couple of options. So visible to other players will put me into that find and play section that we had before. So that's a way to make the game available to other people online. And there's also the schedule game for later, which the schedule game for later function allows you to add it to that find and play section that let you play games later. And so that would just kick it into there were I to turn it on. Now, if you want to share this game with other people, the best way to do that is actually just share them the link. So if you share the link to the game, you can just punch that into a browser and up will pop the game itself. Yeah, it's a very convenient way to just give people access to the game. And then they can, if they're logged in, they can take a seat, or they'll be prompted to create a guest account. And the other way you can share games, and this is a little trick that's a bit hard to come across. You'll see this 6-digit code down here. Mm-hmm. If you go to anywhere on Tabletopia, you can actually just plug that into the search bar and find the room right there.
So each of the room codes are unique, and you can just share that little code with a private group, or you can invite folks. Oh, very nice.
That's right. And so that private code will just allow us to search from anywhere that's available. And that's really useful in the Steam version of the application, because the Steam version is a bit fiddly with using a web browser, but you can always use the search function there.
Nice.
So here we are, and we're just going to start the game. So I'm going to click start, and it's taking a bit of time today. There we are. And that's just going to start the game loading. Now, folks, did anyone have any questions? Millie, was there anything that I've missed?
No, I think we've covered a nice intro there. More Games Please is asking if we could play this game right now. Can we just all jump in and play the game?
Can we just all play it?
Yeah, we miss games in the flesh too, but this looks pretty close as we can get online, I think. Especially, I was playing with this last night and I was throwing pieces around the table. And little red bits of fire everywhere. I wasn't following the rules at all.
Oh no!
But yeah, I think everybody's got some a good idea of what's going on. I'd be interested to hear the official scoop on how to play the game properly.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are graced by the creator himself right here. So.
Oh, it's Richard. Okay. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. We will be running demos, live demos at Virtually Expo. So people will be able to both stream things, but also people will be able to ask to have demos of the game with us, the Medusa game. So you get a chance then. But it's live on Tabletopia right now, so you can play it right now.
You can play it for yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. So here we are in Tabletopia. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of some of the basic controls that will allow you to manipulate the game space. But please don't worry if we miss out on a couple things. I should point out, I have the stream on the second screen. Tabletopia isn't that jolty when you're moving around. That's just a result of us doing a Zoom screen share. So I apologize if things look a little jumpy.
Yeah, we'll share some links later on, because you've done some really lovely intro videos, and it looks much quicker and much smoother than it does right now while we're doing 7 different things.
Yeah, that's no problem. But if you ever at any point don't know what to look at, I'm just going to actually drag, my screen share down here. You'll see this little question mark down here in the bottom. I can click that at any point, and here's a summary of all the controls available. And there are a lot, wow. I will point out. So there's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of keys that can give you different ways to manipulate things. But if you ever need a refresher, it's right down there at the bottom left. And you also see this little paper icon here as well. That will bring up the game rules. So it'll just load the PDF of the rules. And if you ever need a quick refresher, if you ever need to just jump in and double check what's happening, I think I've loaded the Dutch version, the German version of the game. But assuming this is legible for you, that's how you'd quickly access that. So I'll just briefly run through some of the controls. So you can move around by clicking and dragging with the left mouse button. You can also manipulate the camera angles with the right mouse button. So you can go up and down. You can also go left and right. And it's very intuitive because you can sort of see what you need to see wherever you are. You can also zoom into any piece if you want by pressing the Z button, and that'll just whoosh us down, and we'll whoosh back up. And that's just a nice way to sort of really focus on what you're looking at. You can also manipulate any objects like tokens, meeples, just by picking them up and dropping them down. Same with cards. It looks like we've got a nice deck of cards here. You'll see the little number 4 when I hover over it. That's telling me there's 4 cards in this deck. If I needed to pick up multiple cards from this deck, by the way, I could scroll up with the mouse wheel and it would let me take up to 4, and I can scroll down just to make it back to 1. Now we can pick up cards and use them in any way necessary. I haven't had a chance to go through the rules of this one, so you'll forgive me if I'm not doing anything that actually pertains to the game itself. And you'll see that this card, yeah, you'll see this card is upside down. We can actually flip that, and so we can do that by pressing the F button. I just saw a question on the stream. Oh, it's from Cosmos. Cosmos, pleasure to have you here.
It's a
can you search by publisher? So currently we can't search by publisher in the little search bar at the top. But if you go into any publisher's game, at the bottom of the page, you'll see all the other games listed by that publisher, which is kind of the workaround. But we are working on implementing publisher search as well. Yes. So now I want to point out here I've flipped the card, and again I can just press F. I can do that for any card that will allow it. Really, it's quite fun. But
therapeutic,
probably, actually. Yes. If you ever get overwhelmed with the controls, you can take an object and just right click on it. And a little screen will come up with all the available options for it. So you can see that I can just right click and flip here, as opposed to pressing the little keyboard shortcut. And again, all these controls are in this little question mark menu down here. Now, one feature that's useful is when you want to see a card close up. For example, we've got this little reference card over here. If I were to hold Z and zoom in, that's nice and all, but I don't want to be doing that frequently. If you want to quickly refer to a card or an object, you can actually press the space button on it, and that'll bring it up full screen. And so that's a nice way to refresh the rules or see a card or clarify what you're looking at, and just press space to get rid of it. You also see here, we've got a bag. Now, what is in this bag of mystery? Other tokens. You can just pull them out of there.
To the table. Be careful.
Oh my gosh, is that what I'm doing?
Yes. Careful.
Oh no.
they are just all fire tokens as a way of storing them away, but rather than randomized ones. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can cause chaos as well. Remember, we are just given the pieces, and it's up to you. So if I were to scroll up on this and take 22, here's all the fire.
Oh my god.
Now we're in trouble.
Now London is in not a good state at all. Yes, so let me just check my notes, actually. I think that's all the sort of basics. Oh, yes, decks, actually. I will talk briefly about decks. Now, you have a deck of cards stacked up here, but let's say I accidentally took 2 when I didn't mean to. A way to create a deck in Tabletopia or add back to a deck is to grab a card, mouse over it until it highlights orange, as you can see here, let go, and now it's back in that deck. So you can also create brand new decks by doing this as well. So now I've got these 2 cards. This one can go into this deck. And so if you ever need to make a deck, and once you have a deck, by the way, you can draw cards from them. You can flip the entire deck for some reason if you need to. So that manipulates it as a single entity. The other thing I want to show off, and I believe it's important in this game, is having a secret hand of cards. So where you don't want everyone to see your cards just put out on the table, you can actually create a secret hand. So if I grab a card and I drag it to the bottom of the screen, you'll see that the screen highlights blue. I hope that's showing up on the stream.
Yeah, you can just see the
yeah. And if I release, it's now in my hand. And so if I move the camera around, you'll see it's moving with me. This is my personal deck of cards that I can refer to at any time. I can bring them up full screen with spacebar, just like I've been doing with cards on the table. And that's not visible to anyone but myself. However, if I do drag it out and I place it on the table, it's now visible to other people. So the hand is a really nice feature for concealing information in Tabletopia, and some games will allow it if it's relevant. Otherwise, the feature just won't show up. So don't be afraid if you get a feature like that just doesn't work for you. It might be because it's not relevant to that game. And again,
I just noticed that Cosmos asked about whether you can shuffle cards, and I know you can in this, can't you?
You can shuffle cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you come to an end of a deck and you need to shuffle them back, it's
or you
one
don't
of the
trust
functions.
Someone like me who gets into the room early and stacks the deck.
Yeah. So you can put them back in and give them a shuffle. It's a nice little shuffle effect, actually. It's quite fun.
Yeah. So if I were to right-click on the deck of cards, I could actually look for the little shuffle icon here. Gives it a bit of a shuffle.
Oh, it jiggles around as well. That's cute.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
You could just sort of spam that, actually.
Nice.
Yes. And again, a little advanced thing as well. If you right-click on a deck, rather than taking a bunch of cards out and placing them on the table, you can actually draw them directly into your hand. So those 5 cards now go straight into my hand. So that's a way to get information or get cards that you don't want other people to see without actually ever having given them the chance to reveal it. And that's pretty much the basics of it. There are some games I will show off that involve dice. Let's try Wingspan, for example. Dice is sort of the other thing that are important on Tabletopia. And while that's loading, though, I will show off one thing about selecting objects. So you can always grab and pick objects, but if you need to pick up multiple objects at once, you can hold Shift and press multiple objects, and that'll highlight them all. And now they'll move as a unit. And so that way you can manipulate them in one go. It also works for decks. So I can actually pick up this entire deck and I can put that into another deck. So those 2 cards have now gone into this deck, and you'll see this deck now has 5 cards in it. I can also hold the Shift key, drag a box around things, and I can move everything. Now, the computer doesn't like that I'm moving so many things at once, but there we go. That's a nice way to manipulate everything. And London is just a disaster.
It's just a mess now, isn't it?
It's horrid.
Time for a table flip situation, I think.
Pretty much, yes. I do want to show off briefly how dice work in Tabletopia, because they're another thing you'll interact with quite frequently. Just going to check the chat. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, hi, Chits and Giggles. Good to see you there. Yes, here we are. So now we're in Tabletopia, in Wingspan.
I love the dice tower in this. It's so cute.
Oh my gosh. I love how they stuck it onto the board and it still feels a bit 3D like that. I don't think my computer likes that I'm running 2 games at once. I'm just going to close Great Library.
2 games
now,
and a live stream.
Yes.
Let's be fair to Tabletopia here. 2 games and a live stream.
Yes. So what I can do is I can select these dice, and if I want to roll them, I can actually just press the R button, and that'll give them a bit of a roll. And if you're ever in a game also that uses dice as a counter, you can right-click the dice, and you can set it to a specific side. Now, obviously, these don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but that's another way you can manipulate the dice in games like Role Player, for example, where you need to set counters or set dice to opposite sides. And yes, I think that is it. Were there any other questions that people have?
I think Kate was asking if there's a game you really want to see on Tabletopia. Is there like a best way to pester the publisher?
Honestly, I would pester them yourself.
just get out there on the socials and
yeah,
mention it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. We're always looking for more games, and we're always looking for ways to get more games out there. There are a lot of reasons publishers will put their games on Tabletopia, and of course some reasons people won't. But Tabletopia is a really nice way for people to play, and one thing I should mention is all premium games are actually profit shared with the publishers. So if the publishers would like to would like a little side income, or just to even market their game a bit more, Tabletopia is a really nice way to do that. I would just pester them, to be honest. I would just fire up Twitter.
Just Twitter. So we've transitioned back so people can see the Tabletopia links, just so you can include Tabletopia in your tweets or your Facebook tags there.
Yes.
So I think we've had a lovely kind of overview of how I would get into Tabletopia.